Hello, everybody. Welcome to our OmegaRecruit training tonight. We are still waiting for some attendees to log on. So as we wait for people to join us, we're going to give it about 2 minutes. While you're waiting, though, if you want to go to the question section and let us know your name and what chapter you're representing tonight. Well, like I said, we'll start in about 2 minutes, but if you want to do that, you can check that out and make sure that is working for submitting questions during the webinar as well. So it looks like we have most of our attendees logged in, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the webinar for tonight. If you have just joined within the past 2 minutes, I did ask that if you would like to submit in the question section your name and what chapter you're representing, just so you can make sure that's working for you. You can go ahead and pop that in there. And if you guys have any questions during the webinar, you can also use that to put those in there. And I have my co-host with me tonight that will be answering those questions. And my name is Sarah Beth Russell. I'm going to be leading the training for this evening. And then my co-host is Hannah Gunderson. She is going to go ahead and give us a little intro to OmegaFi. And like I said, she'll be in the question section this evening answering anything that comes through during the webinar.
Thanks, Sarah Beth. So as Sarah Beth said, I'm going to give you all a brief summary of OmegaFi and what we do before Sarah Beth gets started with today's training. So OmegaFi has actually been around for more than 30 years, and we are the company that maintains and hosts OmegaRecruit, among several other products that you may or may not use. We've actually provided technology solutions to help customers manage finances, streamline operations, recruit new members, as you all are getting ready to do, and communicate with members. So whether it's working with 57 different headquarters or local chapters, house corporations, IFC and Panhellenic councils, as well as alumni associations across more than 650 campuses, we remain the industry leader when it comes to technology in the fraternity and sorority community. And we are based out of Columbus, Georgia, although we have folks that work all over the country, and we securely process more than $1.1 million per day for our clients. And we've securely processed more than 4 billion since we started in 1992. So we are deeply committed to serving and promoting and advancing the fraternity and sorority experience, and we aim to make raving fans with every individual or group that we work with by reaching and innovating and acting with agility. And we challenge ourselves to dream big every day and to help others achieve their dreams. So to say that we're passionate about what we do is an understatement. And it's this passion that has encouraged our clients to trust us to do the heavy lifting so that you all can focus on your mission and having fun. So again, that's just a little bit about OmegaFi, who hosts OmegaRecruit, and I'll turn it back over to Sarah Beth for the training.
Awesome, Hannah. Thank you so much. So guys, we will go ahead and get started with looking at our agenda for today. So on our agenda, we're going to go over just a few tips that we have for best practices for recruitment. So having a successful recruitment and getting that set up. We'll go over login and account setup. So if you haven't logged your members, had your members log in yet, or if you are a newer chapter and you haven't signed in and gotten that account set up, we'll kind of walk you through that a little, and then we'll go over the main menus and features throughout OmegaRecruit so you know where everything is while going through basically like a mock recruitment setup tonight. And we will also look at voting and reporting, and then lastly we'll have Q&A. So I know we mentioned earlier you can ask questions during the webinar, but we'll also have a Q&A session at the end where we'll go over some of those, or if any come in last minute, we'll talk about that as well. So getting started with our tips for best practices. So be proactive and prepare. The 3 things that you can do to be proactive and prepare. Make sure you guys are logging in. So have all your users log in we recommend at least 1 week before, especially if you guys are doing any practice recruitments, having them do practice votes before the actual recruitment begins. You'll want to make sure they are all logged in before the day of. That way, if there are any complications, they can reach out to login support to get that taken care of and be able to be ready to vote the day of. And then we do suggest that you guys practice. So today, when we're going through the mock setup for OmegaRecruit, there are practice files within OmegaRecruit that we'll look at and use to set that up. And we have those out there for you guys, so you can also run through practice recruitment as well. That just helps with getting familiar with the system and its functionality for you as admins as well as your users. And then the last thing we suggest is training. So review any webinars. You guys are here tonight, so you've already taken one of those steps. And we also have a lot of in-app help, which we'll look at this evening where you can find that, but just so you as chapter admins are comfortable and confident with the software and being able to navigate around that. So looking at login wise, if you, like I said, are a new chapter and you are just setting up, you'll receive an activation email that looks like this as the admin for you to get that chapter set up. And once you follow that, it will take you through all the steps to get logged in. Now, if you are a returning chapter and you are adding your members as an admin, you should already have access from previous semesters. If not, one of your previous admins can add you, and you will get an email that looks like this. All your users, when added to the account, will get an email that looks like this. With this email, if you've never used OmegaRecruit before, it's going to prompt you to get logged in. It'll take you through the complete registration. But for members that have used OmegaRecruit in a previous year, they'll be able to go ahead and log in with the same email and password they previously used. So with that, also, if you're using any other OmegaFi products, Omega One, Vault, anything like that, and you already have an OmegaFi login, make sure you're using that same email across the board. If you're trying to use those specific credentials to log in, make sure you add those users with the same emails. And we'll go ahead now and look at real quick how we can add those users. So we're going to hop over to OmegaRecruit. This is going to typically pop up when you first log into your chapter. It is just redirecting you to put in your recruitment dates. That way you can get started with everything in the system. So it'll take you here, but you'll actually go to edit chapter right here and just put in whatever your recruitment dates are. We'll go ahead and put in this and make sure you hit that save button, and then you'll be able to start going around the system. We're going to first look at just users, so you know how to add your users in here. And this is where you will do that. So you can add individual users, or you can upload a file with that. For the file, you're just going to need 3 columns. You'll have your email, first name, and last name on each of those columns there in the rows across the top. You'll upload the email list, and like I showed, that registration link will go out to those users to be able to sign in. And then you can also look at your user list here. So if you need to clean that up, if you're just getting logged in for the first time, you need to remove any admins, you can take them off here or click that to add them. This is also where you can star your members. So if you double click on this, you can see it will star certain members. So if you have some particularly strong recruiters that you want to star for matching, this is where you do that. And like I said, we'll look at the matching later, but just so you are aware, this is the page you would do that on. This is also where you can delete members and restrict members. If you're having members that are having trouble with login, you can also resend them their registration email. So like you can tell if a user hasn't logged in by if they have this button here. Going back to the slides really quick, just before we get started, we're just going to look at 3 simple steps tonight for getting started. So if you think of it this way, it makes it just a lot easier. Basically, when you're setting up for recruitment, you're just going to have the steps of adding your rounds, uploading your PNMs, and uploading your parties. The rest is going through the system, but those are the 3 most important things to get you started and set up for a successful recruitment. And we'll go ahead and go back to the system here. We're going to start off Typically, if you've already uploaded your users, when you first log in, it's actually going to direct you to this setup page when you log in if you've already put in your recruitment date. So this is typically like your main screen. So you can see here you have your steps for setup. Number 3 is gone because we've already uploaded users. But these are the steps that'll take you through. You can click these links and it'll take you directly to the page you need, as well as we have practice files here for you guys to use so you don't use real recruitment data. We don't suggest using real recruitment data. That's why we've provided the practice files for you so you can use that to just get familiar with the system at first. So we'll go ahead and start with step 1, which is setting up our round. This is going to take us to our edit rounds page, and you'll use the add rounds here to create all the rounds for your recruitment. You'll notice that when you're adding the rounds here, this preference flag is going to follow your last round always. So as many rounds as you add, that preference flag is always going to be at the bottom here. And even if you delete, it'll pop back up to the next last one. So we do recommend setting up all your rounds at the same time, especially for any organizations who may have specific configuration. But just as a best practice, setting up all your rounds at once is going to make sure all your voting calculations are coming in correctly and it's not messing those up by adding rounds after voting has happened. So we do suggest doing that up front. We're going to have 3 rounds and you can rename those with the little pencil icon here. So if we wanted to name this open house, and then maybe this one will say sisterhood, and then the last one we will just rename pref. And then this is also where you can change from open voting to party voting. With the practice files, there are party files as well. And if you use those, it's 12 parties for round 1 and 9 parties for round 2. If you want to set that up, and those instructions are on the setup page as well in case you need those when you're actually looking at it. But we'll go ahead and do that just to give a little insight, the difference between open voting and party voting. Open voting just means that all of your PNMs are going to be available on the ballot to members to choose from. So if you have a lot of PNMs at your school, you may want to condense it down by parties rather than just having open voting where all the PNMs are available, especially if you have a lot of PNMs maybe with the same name, you have several different Ashleys going through, and it's easier to remember them by what party they're in as your members are voting rather than to have to try and go through all the Ashleys in the open voting list. So this just kind of helps narrow that down by party if you're going to use party voting. So like I said, it's going to, if you're using the party voting, it'll just limit the PNMs available to only the ones that are in that party each time you advance your rounds and your party. But you'll have to advance your round as well as your parties each time, which we'll look at that on our advanced round screen later. With this also though, you'll want to make sure you select the exact number of parties that a round is going to have. So like I said, the practice files here, this is what they're set up for. So we're going to go ahead and hit save here. You want to make sure you hit save, and you can double check it by going back to your edit rounds, seeing that everything is set up correctly. One other thing to note here, with setting up all your rounds at the same time, you can also stretch your rounds over multiple days. So like if open house is lasting 3 days because you have so many parties that are coming because you have a very large recruitment at your school, you don't have to make 3 separate open house rounds. You can just make the open house 1 round and have your parties, and then you can open and close voting at the end and beginning of each night to make sure votes aren't coming in overnight or anything. But you can do that because there is a voting round limit of 20 rounds. So if you're going to have a lot of different days, you don't have to break those up. You can just do open house. It's just, whatever it is at your school, you can set that up accordingly. And we'll go ahead and go back to the PNM list setup page here. So as you can see, step 1 has now disappeared, that we are done setting up our round. So we'll go ahead and move to step 2, which is going to be uploading our PNMs. It's going to take us directly to the upload PNMs page, which is also in the drop down over here if you're looking for it. All the steps that we click on the setup page are all in these side tabs as well. So we'll look at that as we go through them. But here is where you can upload P&Ms. Depending on your campus, if you guys use ICS, you can actually connect to ICS. And once you've connected to ICS, this page is going to look a little different. You'll have just a button that says import from ICS, and it'll automatically pull your P&Ms for you into the system from ICS's system. If your campus uses something like Campus Director, what you'll need to do is download a file of your P&Ms from Campus Director and upload it here. Also, even if your chapter does use ICS, you can still have the ability to run through this practice recruitment uploading the test files. You just disconnect from ICS, do that, do your master reset, which we'll look at, and then reconnect. And we'll look at later where you can connect to ICS as well if your chapter isn't already connected, so we can make sure that is good to go. When looking at the upload though, if you are a school that doesn't use ICS, you click on this detailed instruction examples here. It's going to give you a breakdown of exactly what that should look like. So these are the accepted header titles that you can use. You want to make sure you're following this pretty closely. It needs to basically look exactly like what's pictured there. So keep in mind that special formatting, or any like italics, bolding, that can get in the way of the system being able to read the data from your file. So just keep your file as plain as possible. Again, just basically exactly what it looks like here. So using these header titles exactly as well, a lot of mistakes we'll see is like if instead of saying URL or PNM picture, somebody might put PNM pic, and it's not going to upload that particular item, and it can also prevent the whole thing from being able to be uploaded. So just make sure you're reviewing all of that it's correct before you're uploading it. And if you do have anything that's out of whack on the Excel file, it's going to let you know. So when we go here to upload the files, once you have that ready for upload, when you click upload PNM, it will let you know that it's successful with the green box here. If you are missing any columns though, or if there's any like errors, so here we can just see like there's missing unrequired columns. You don't have to use all the columns that are shown in that detailed instruction, but here we see also any errors that may occur. So if there was something wrong with the upload and it wasn't successful, it'll show you in this section as well. Then we can click to return to the PNM list here, and you'll see now that all of your PNMs are showing within the PNM list. And on the setup page, that step is now gone. One other thing to mention on that, and it's on the instructions here, but you'll just need to save that in the 97-2003 workbook format in order for it to be successfully uploaded. So now that we've uploaded our PNMs, we're going to go ahead and skip to step 5, and we're going to upload our parties to see what that looks like. Step 4 here, we will advance rounds once we are going to look at the ballot. So we'll look at that later, but we're going to go ahead and upload the PNM parties. This page is also another one that may look slightly different if you are a school that's connected to ICS. Again, just like the upload PNMs, you're going to have a button that says import from ICS. If your campus again uses Campus Director, you'll just download a file of the party assignments from Campus Director and upload it here. So with these detailed instructions, it's a lot simpler than the last form. You just need your MIN, which is your member identification number. You should get that from whatever software you're using. This is just to identify those PNMs individually, especially if anybody has duplicate names, anything like that. These are better indicators of each individual PNM, and then their parties that they are in. So those are the only 2 columns you'll need for upload. And again, Excel 97-2003 workbook. We'll go ahead and upload our file here for party 1. You can see there's a drop down here to choose which round you're uploading that for, and then when you submit parties, just like the PNM upload, it'll let you know that you are successful. One thing to mention on that though, make sure that if a PNM is returning to your organization, that they are listed in a party. If a PNM on the party upload is not listed, it's going to put them in a status of regret or inactive. So if they are coming back, just make sure they have that correct party assignment or some sort of party assignment in there to make sure that they aren't marked inactive. So now that we've looked at those steps for setting up your chapter for recruitment. All the rest of these here, you'll just kind of repeat throughout recruitment. So we are pretty much done with the setup page, and we're just going to look at the menu options, going through those on the left-hand side of the page here. So everything we reviewed from the setup page can be found within the menu as well, but there's a few other things we can look at. So we'll start with the P&M menu specifically. The P&M list is what we're currently on. So your setup page is always up here in this little corner. If you want to close it, it'll put it away and you'll see your P&M list, or if you ever need to access that again, you'll just click setup and it will pop back up. So we have that available, but your P&M list here, this is going to be where you can review all your P&Ms, their information, their scores. Everything is pretty much just like your main table of where everything is at. So if we go ahead and click on this little hamburger icon here, there's a few different things we can review. We have our refresh and recalculate here. This is really great to use throughout recruitment when you're constantly getting votes in and you're needing to see if anything new has come in, checking changes. You can hit that refresh and recalculate at any point in time, so you can have the most up-to-date information on there. And then we also have selecting columns. So this is where you can kind of customize what your P&M list looks like. So here you can choose whatever you want to be in there. So we're going to go ahead and choose admin note, and we'll look at hometown, as well as always scroll down to the bottom here where your rounds are. So make sure you have your rounds selected as well. That way, as votes are coming in, you'll be able to see those within the P&M list. Make sure starred. We're going to click starred here. We'll go ahead and update that, and you can see now that as we've updated the columns, now you can see the new ones that we've added. So you can, from here, do a few different things. You can move a column if you need to, and you can also click into certain ones here. So if we wanted to add some admin notes, such as graduated early, you can put those within the system as well. Now, at any point, though, if you do refresh your screen after moving a column, not after you selected the column, those will always stay accordingly, but after moving a column, if you refresh your screen, it's going to go back into whatever order it was previously ordered in. So just keep that in mind on those columns there. And the other things in this hamburger menu, also we have our in-browser slideshow. So the slideshow here is going to just go through your P&Ms. You can use the arrow keys to go through that. You can also use this hamburger menu up here to change what you see on that. So if you want to take certain information off or you want it on there, you can customize that to be how you like. And then if you press the P key on your keyboard, it will put it in a format where you can then right click and print these. So you may need to change the layout so everything is fitting on the page correctly. But if you want that, so you can print it out to look at your individual P&Ms, you can do that here. And then when you're done, you can hit the escape key and it will take you back to your P&M list. And then lastly, in this menu, we have export P&Ms. This is going to just show us basically a full breakdown of your P&M list. All the columns, whether they're selected or not, will pull into this, as well as all your voting scores. So right now you see probably a lot of these -1s. That just means there's no vote in. So as you have votes coming in, you'll be able to see those there rather than these -1s, but it has all the information that you could need from the P&M list within this file. One other thing with the P&M list itself, you can also search and sort. So if you want to just search for just freshmen, you can adjust the rows that way, or you can also sort by party. So you can double click the column you want to sort by, or you can also use this to sort accordingly. Keep in mind that when you're doing this, though, if you put in freshmen and you go to pull that slideshow, it's only going to show freshmen in the slideshow. So if there's any search things here, it's going to apply that to your in-browser slideshow. So if you just take that off, you're good to go. And then also the starred feature that we have that we looked at with the users earlier for matching, you would do that on the P&M list for your P&Ms as well. So if we wanted to star a P&M, we would just double click that and it would put a star by her name. And then when we go to our matching, that will allow for matches to happen between a P&M and a member. So maybe a P&M you guys really, really like and you know you want to put with your best recruiters that you've starred in your user list. This is one of the ways you can use our matching tool. So, okay, now that we've looked at the P&M menu, we're going to go to add P&M here. This is just going to be where you can add an individual P&M. So if you had somebody join late or whatever it may be, and you just need to add a singular P&M, you can do that here. This starred parts here, those are the only ones that are actually required, but you can also add all her other information as well if you have that, and add a P&M individually. Again, we also have the upload P&M, so you can do that in mass as well. We've already looked at the upload parties, but we'll go ahead while we're here and upload parties for our sisterhood round as well. Next in our menu, we're going to look at comments. So as you're going through voting, comments can be put on the ballot. So any comments, if you want to pull a report of all those comments, you can do that on this page right here in the P&M dropdown. We also have recs here. So if your chapter wants to utilize this is just something within the system, but you don't have to use it. But there's a recommendation link that you can give to P&Ms in order to have recommendations submitted for them to the chapter. So when you send that out, it's just a link, and then you can look at those and review those recommendations through the export here. Lastly, in the P&M dropdown, we're going to look at the reporting section. So this section right here holds most all of your reports in totality. This is really great for anything you need kind of in between voting. So when you're reviewing votes at the end of the night, any type of reports you may need, you can find them here. So we have the P&M report. You can select only actives, and you can also include comments on here, which you can't do with the P&M list export from the P&M list. So you can do that here and download an Excel file with your votes. You can also, same thing, include only active P&Ms, and then you can also choose to include the vote values specifically, and you can break down what round you want to look at, or you can pull it for all rounds. This part right here is one of my favorite things, the user versus P&M. So you can choose in the report to pull it by your users that voted, or you can choose to look at it by P&M, and it'll show you the P&M and everybody who voted for them in their vote, rather than the user and all the P&Ms they voted on. And you can pull it via PDF or Excel. Again, this is another comments report. Here, though, you can sort it by user, P&M, or time, as well as filter it out by rounds as well. This slideshow report here, this is a secondary slideshow that we have. Unlike the in-browser slideshow, you're going to be able to filter it out here, but unlike the in-browser slideshow, it's not going to have quite as much information of the P&Ms on here, and it's going to download in PowerPoint, so you can update it in the PowerPoint, but it's not going to have as much when you download it on each P&M. And now we'll look at the voter distribution. The voter distribution, this is going to show basically overall distribution report, which will help you guys look at voting trends for the chapter as a whole. We also offer this information on each P&M and user. So like when you click on the individual user or P&M, you can see that information broken down. This is really helpful to just better analyze and understand the data. If you're having trouble narrowing down your P&Ms, and let's say you have a lot of high votes or a lot of low votes, you can discuss that with the chapter, and you'll kind of see that through your voter distribution. There's a lot of ones or a lot of fives or whatever the scale may be. And then finally, we'll look at the voter audit report here. This is going to show any changes to the votes that have been made. So we'll look at how you can change a vote later, but if a member incorrectly records a vote, votes on the wrong P&M, or whatever it may be, you're able as an admin to update this. And this voter audit report is just going to be a log of all those changes. So it'll show who made the update, what the original score was, and what it was changed to. I believe also what time that was made, and it'll show like the round as well. And then if your organization maybe has categories, then it will also show you which category the vote was changed for as well. So that's really nice to just help keep the integrity of recruitment, so you can see any votes that were changed, the original, and what the vote is after. So after that, we have our hub, which is graphs and key data points. So this is something that we have as a resource for you guys. Any of these graphs, if you click on the little arrow down here, it'll flip over where you have the data points, and you can also download those graphs here. So this is just some extra information to review and analyze data. Under the hub, we have our matching tab here. This is not primary function of OmegaRecruit, but it can definitely help you sort through the data in OmegaRecruit to determine which members should speak to each of the P&Ms that are visiting during each round. So there are 4 different criteria here that you can use to generate potential matches. So we have recommendations, which are recommendations submitted by members on the ballot or through their user profile. You have your starred members and P&Ms, which we have talked about when we've looked at how to do that for each. You have interest and hometowns as well. If you're going to use the interest and hometowns features, then when your members log in, they'll need to update their match profile, which they'll be able to see when they log in, so that that data is available for them to be able to match if that's something you're wanting to use as criteria. And so for all of these items here, though, you can select what should be used or what shouldn't be. So if you don't want to use something, you can deselect that. You can also make something required. So if you do have all of these selected, but you want everybody to have a recommendation in order for them to match, that would mean, like, even if they have a common hometown, if they don't have a recommendation, then they're not going to match. So just be aware of that when clicking the required box there. And then also the sliding bar here, you can choose the importance of that for the match. So if recommendations are the most important to you, or starred members over your interest in hometowns, you can move this up or down accordingly. And then you'll also have here the number of matches per member and per P&M. If you have a really large chapter, you may need a lot of matches, so you can change this number to generate as many matches as you need. Or if you have a smaller chapter and you want to limit the number of matches you have to go through, you can have this be a lower number. But this just means that, if a member is matched with someone, they can only get 2 matches, even if they have more P&Ms that they have matching criteria with. And then you can choose what round that you're matching for and your parties as well. If you want to break it down by that, you'll click Generate Matches here, and it will load any of your matches. You can see here the criteria that they're matched on. If you want to download that, you can. And you can also delete matches by selecting them and then hitting Delete Selected, or you can add a new match and just pick like who needs to be that match and give the reason for the match, and then hit save, and it will pop that into your already listed out matches. Moving on to the vote tab, this is where your members will see a ballot, which we'll look at a little bit later, but they'll have the vote tab here, and you as a chapter admin will also be able to access the ballot from the vote tab. Under that, we have our chapter tab. So this is where you're going to be able to manage your voting rounds on this page. So advancing your parties and your voting. So like we want to go ahead and open up our first round of voting and our first party. We can do that. You just need to make sure you save that status. This is where I also said if you're doing party voting, you'll need to advance each party as you go through that so that members can vote on each party specifically. Once you have open voting, you cannot go back to before recruitment, so just keep that in mind before you open voting, but you can close that at the end of each night if you want to, and then just save that change, and no votes will be able to be submitted in the interim. We've looked at the Edit Rounds tab here, so that's what we went over earlier. The edit chapter we looked at as well when we put in our recruitment dates, but if you need to change your chapter name, college, anything like that, you can update that here. Here is edit custom columns. So on the P&M upload earlier, there are 6 custom columns that if the specific headers you're looking for are not listed in the ones that are pre-listed, you can use these custom columns by putting in custom 1, 2, 3, so on. And this is where you could then change the name of those custom columns here, so that when they're pulling into the P&M list, you're not seeing custom column 1, you're seeing whatever that column is named here. For the ICS chapters that are out there, this is where you would connect to that. So this will, if you click this here, it will take you through the instructions of how to connect. And like I said, you can also disconnect. This would be the same place you would disconnect from ICS as well if you're wanting to run practice. And our last tab on the chapter menu here is the master reset. So with the master reset, just one thing we want to be really careful with is this here. Master reset is great for in between practice rounds or after recruitment has finalized. If you want to wipe the data before like starting spring or whatever it may be, this is a great tool to use, but you definitely want to make sure that you're not using this once you have started your real recruitment. So especially if you put in votes, you don't want to be doing master reset after you have started your recruitment, put in votes, have all your P&Ms uploaded, that sort of thing. Because what this master reset will do, you're going to get all your P&Ms removed, any votes, comments, anything like that, and it's going to set the system back to before recruitment. So similar to what we do each May, the only difference here is you still maintain your users. So you won't have to re-add users or anything. So if you're using this in between practice, your users will still be in the system. So just be careful when using the master reset. Under the chapter menu, we have the configuration page here. So if you have for your organization a specific configuration, or even for people who don't have any type of specifics, they want to look at how everything is calculated when pulling in votes, this is the page you can look at to see how those votes are being calculated. For our training material that we have within the system, we have this button here. This is going to take you through a pretty detailed, like step-by-step of how to set up your chapter and go through mock recruitment, basically kind of like what we showed today to do your practice recruitments. And we also have our help me section here. So if you have any questions, you can type it in here and different articles will come up for whatever type of question you're looking for. We also have more information in our help center that's similar to this. So if you click get help, if you're not finding something in the help me section, we have our help center here. Same thing, you can type in an answer or a question and it will pull up several different articles that you can look at to see the information you're looking for. If you still aren't finding what you're looking for or you're having some sort of issue with the system, you can submit a request here. We do have 24-hour support for recruitment during the recruitment season. So you can select whatever it is that you're having the issue with, put in your information. Now, if there's something like specific going on, any type of screenshots or anything, the most information you can give us, you can upload screenshots here. That's just going to give us the most information so support can get back to you quickly and hopefully help you resolve that quickly as well. You can also click the little support here, and similar, you can ask a question and it'll send an email to recruitment_support, which we'll put that up when we go back to the PowerPoint so you guys can have the email if you need to email them. Now that we have gone through all the administrator things here, we're going to go ahead and look at the ballot. So all your voting members need to do to be able to look at their ballot is register if they haven't, log in, and then cast their votes by going to the vote button here. So again, if your organization has specific configurations that are different, this page may look a little different for you, but for the most part, this is what your ballot is going to look like here. So you can use the drop down, choose whatever P&M you're wanting to vote on. One thing that's nice, it'll pull their picture in here. So to make sure you're voting on the correct P&M, like I said, if there's a lot of Ashleys, you want to make sure their picture will be attached here, as long as that was part of the information you put into the system. And then as well as if you want to click on the little light bulb here, it will give you even more information. So you can see that. And to go back, you can just click on the little file up there and we'll go ahead and submit a vote. You can add a comment here, and this is where you can also recommend that member match. So I'm going to go ahead and submit a few so we can just see kind of what that will look like in the P&M list. And we'll go back to that and we can see here the votes filtering in. So it's showing our first round as well as our overall rounds here. So we can see that for each member. If we want to look at a further breakdown, you can click on the member themselves and look at rounds for or votes for each round, see who voted on them, as well as you can look at comments. So anybody who makes a comment, it will be under this section. It'll say what they commented. You can also look at their statuses for each party, their P&M details, and recruitment stats. So this is like your voter distribution for your individual member. If you're needing to change a vote on this vote detail page here, you can either edit it to change it and save that, or you can delete the vote entirely. So whatever you're needing to do to change that, that's where you would do it, and that'll pull into the voter audit report. So that is pretty much everything within the system. I'm going to go ahead and get up the email for you guys, but just as kind of a wrap up of everything to review, preparing for recruitment, your preparation is going to be your best bet for success. So the more prepared you are, the better you're going to be able to navigate the system with ease. So again, just make sure you guys are logging into the system in preparation beforehand and practice as much as you need because those resources are there. And same with the training. All of those resources that we looked at are available for you within the system. So make sure you are using them. And I'm going to go ahead and put up here, this is our recruitment email. So that's recruitment_support@omegafy.com. If you are having any issues with in recruitment or during recruitment and you need to send an email, you can do that here or the places we looked at within OmegaRecruit as well. Now we'll go ahead and just open up for Q&A. Have we had any questions come in during the webinar?
Yes, we had some good ones. One just came in that actually I need some help with answering. It's from Laura, and she said for COB chapters, do we put the last day of formal recruitment as the end date or the last day of COB? What is your recommendation there?
Yeah, I think it really just depends. I think typically the system, if it's past your recruitment date, it will kind of do the same thing where it's like, hey, your past recruitment date period. So it will make you like update your recruitment dates. So if you do COB after formal recruitment, you'll probably have to adjust those dates. You can kind of just adjust them to any time in the future so that you're able to have access for that. That's more so keeping track of like when your recruitment is, not necessarily like anything that will change anything in the system. So I would suggest like if you know you're going to have COB and you want to keep that open, I would put it in as the end date for your COB.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. And then Peyton just submitted a question. Is there a video or guide for mock voting to practice with your chapter? Yes, we have lots of resources out there in our help center. So Sarah Beth, do you mind pulling that back up so they can see where to get to it again? And then in our help center, you just click on that Get Help button. And then out there, we have lots of resources and videos. So where Sarah Beth is showing videos and webinars, we have a lot out there, several related to the mock recruitment. And then also, we will be sending out the recording of tonight's webinar within the next couple of days. So you'll have that one as well as a reference. But all of our previous videos are here in the Help Center as well as on our YouTube channel. So lots of resources there. Anything else you would add to that, Sarah Beth?
No, that is perfect.
Okay. And then a couple of others. Ansley asked, can you print the cards from the slideshow smaller than an 8x10? And my suggestion there was to probably download the slideshow and then format it so that it's a bit smaller and then print it. Sarah Beth, would you add anything else to that?
I think if you download it, it's still like within a web browser. So when you're going to print it, it is automatically going to show that 8 by 10. In the print settings, though, you should be able to adjust that accordingly. It may look like condensing the pages to where multiple P&Ms fit on one page that's an 8 by 10, and then you would like essentially cut them out when you print them. But you should be able to do that like under when you right click print under those printer settings.
Okay, thank you. And then two more questions. One is, if I have party changes after upload, can we re-upload that with new data and it will overwrite it? And I know there are a couple of steps there and implications, Sarah Beth, so I'll let you demo and explain that.
Yeah, so similar with P&M upload and party upload, if you have more P&Ms come in and you want to re-upload the file, you can do that and it will add your new members without taking, or your new P&Ms without taking out any of the old P&Ms. The caveat with that is you just need to make sure you use the original file and add the P&Ms, the new ones at underneath all the rest. So still upload all your previous ones with the new ones also in there if you're having like 10 new P&Ms. With the parties, similarly, you can't like change the amount of parties. You want to make sure that's all the same. But if just a P&M has moved from a different party and you now have a new file upload, it's going to overwrite that. So as long as the MIN number is correct and you have switched the party to whatever party they're going to be in now, it will update that once you re-upload it.
Okay, great. Thank you for explaining that. And then last question that I see right now, of course, we still have 5 minutes. So if anybody else has any other questions you want to submit, feel free to do that. But last question for now is, can I delete rounds after voting has started? And again, I know the answer to that is yes, but it would probably be good to show them what that looks like and explain what the steps and implications would be.
Yeah, so if you do need to change around after voting started, you can. So under the chapter menu here, under the tab for edit rounds, you can delete one. I would not suggest deleting one that you've already have votes in. So if you have to delete backwards, but if you're like wanting to delete a round in the middle, you're not really going to be able to do that without deleting rounds after it. So if I want to delete Sisterhood, I would have to delete Pref and then Sisterhood and then re-add Pref. So just keep that in mind. And if you already have votes on a round that you're deleting, that's probably going to cause scoring issues. It's going to look a little wonky on your P&M list. So that's why we say make sure, if you can, have all your rounds set up at the beginning so you don't have to go back and do that. But if you do, you can delete a round. I would just highly suggest that it's not one that has any votes in it.
Gotcha. Yes, that's important. Thank you. All right, so it looks like that's all of the questions that have come through. If anybody thinks of any questions afterwards, feel free to send us an email as it says there. Also, we have lots of articles and videos, as we've already mentioned, in the Help Center, and that's available 24/7. So feel free to check that out if you need anything. And then, of course, email us if you are unable to find what you're looking for. You are certainly not alone. We know that this is an exciting time, but also tensions can be a little bit high during recruitment, and we understand that, and we have a support team that's staffed up and ready to help you. If you are in active recruitment, we do have 24-hour support for that as well. So just reach out if you need something, and we will be glad to help. We thank you all for joining us this afternoon or this evening, depending on where you're at, and we wish you the best of luck with recruitment this season. Have a great day. Thank you.